morning. Welcome to 49ers in 5, your daily update on everything happening with the team that you need to know. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. Today is Monday, April 24th, 2023. Here's what's happening with your San Francisco 49ers. The draft is just 3 days away, and even though the Niners are going to have to wait a while to make their first pick, we won't have to wait to hear from the team. John Lynch will meet the media today at noon Pacific time, and he'll be followed by, quote, select players, according to the press release sent out by the team. So with that in mind, I'd like to offer up some questions that I'd like answered. The first question to John Lynch has to be about the Trey Lance trade rumors. John, is it true you talked about trading Lance at the Combine? Are you still talking about it? Trey Lance himself was asked about these rumors while he was at NDSU to watch his little brother in the Bison's final spring practice. Quote, I got no comment on that, Lance told the Forum, the local outlet there. I have no information. So not only have there been multiple reports about the rumors, but Lance himself has now specifically addressed them. So if this isn't the first question to John Lynch, it is an utter failure by the 49ers press corps. If Lynch says they have been talking about Lance, there's all sorts of follow-ups on the table. Why would you trade him if you believe everything you've said about him? Does this mean you're confident that Brock Purdy will be back sooner rather than later? Why should Trey believe what you're saying about him if you're trying to trade him? Did you tell Trey that you'd try and trade him in the offseason? There are more, of course, but you get the picture. If Lynch denies the rumors, I'd ask whether he talked about trading for Kirk Cousins at the Combine. Also, Brock Purdy himself said he wasn't sure he'd play this year, John. Have you been told there's a chance he could miss the entire regular season? And oh, by the way, let's not forget about Brandon Ayuk as well. Teams were reportedly sniffing around him. And the Niners still have yet to pick up his fifth-year option. Although, to be fair, Lynch may announce that they are doing that at the press conference. So you'd have to, wait and see on that. But if he doesn't mention it, it has to be asked. In terms of the players, I will be fascinated to see who they pick to speak. Which quarterbacks are they going to let talk? Will they let any meet the media? If they let Brock, he needs to be asked whether he could miss the entire regular season. Only fair to give him a chance to clear up that whole controversy. If it's Trey Lance, that's even better, right? You got to ask him about the trade rumors. Did the team give you a heads up on that? Did they contact you after the reports came out? Did you contact them? Can you win the job back from Brock Purdy? Are you frustrated with how the team has treated you? Do you think you need a fresh start somewhere else? Again, I know I'm firing a lot at you here. There are just so many questions that fans deserve to hear about, and none of them are about the draft. Those are the last questions that should be asked. Lynch and Shanahan are going to have multiple press conferences throughout the draft and after the picks are made. We can ask all those questions then. This is the first time the team is going to meet the media since all this stuff with Trey has happened. That needs to be the focus. And I don't care if they say they don't want to talk about it. Just keep asking it because there are no other questions of value. The team is not going to give you honest answers about the draft 3 days before it starts. No team would, by the way. They like secrecy in that process. And we don't want to hear about it anyway. We want to hear about the quarterbacks. We want to hear about Brandon Ayuk. We want to hear about a Nick Bosa contract. That's it. Those are the only things that should be addressed. We always give you one thing to read, one thing to watch, and one thing you might have missed. One thing to read on this Monday with the draft coming up on Thursday. Cam Inman has a story in the Mercury News about how the Niners' success with Brock Purdy is literally changing the way teams scout quarterbacks later in the draft. They say it's a copycat league, right? One thing to watch, Brock Purdy took in a Giants game over the weekend, and he stood up to wave at the crowd, and yes, he did use that throwing arm. So you can see the video from our Twitter handle at GS Podcasts. One thing you may have missed, former Cardinals general manager Steve Keim was a guest on The Herd with Colin Cowherd recently and told a great story about their pre-draft interview with Nick Bosa.
So we were leaving the dinner and we were walking out of Mastro's in Fort Lauderdale. And I'll never forget, he puts his arm around me and Cliff Kingsbury, both of us, in basically a headlock. And he said, I think you guys are probably going to end up taking that little quarterback. And if you do, he looked over at me and said, Steve, I will haunt you for the rest of your career.
I love that.
And Colin, we got into the SUV, Cliff and I did, to go back to the hotel. And I remember we both looked at each other with wide eyes and said, man, I just said to Cliff, I said, he can't catch him. And he really never did, which was a good thing.
The Cardinals were the only team that could have stolen Bosa from the 49ers that year, as they had the first overall pick. They did take Kyler Murray. For the record, in 7 games against the Cardinals, Bosa has 3 sacks and 11 quarterback hits, although to be fair, not all of those games came against Kyler Murray. That's a wrap on today's 49ers in 5. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Enjoy your Monday, everybody. Me and Vish are going to be live, but we're going to do it a little bit later because of the press conferences. We want to be able to respond to everything they say. So we'll be on live after the press conferences on the Gold Standard Podcast Network YouTube channel. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. We'll talk tomorrow.